You try to stop a habit, and somehow your brain pulls you right back into it, again, almost automatically, like you never really had a choice in the first place. And the strange part is, that feeling is not an accident, because your brain was never built to help you become disciplined. It was built to help you survive the next moment. Right now, there is something in your life that you know is not good for you. You feel it clearly, but you still return to it. Not because you don't understand the consequences, but because understanding is not what drives behavior in the moment. There is a system inside your head that quietly decides what you do before you even realize you are deciding anything. And once you see it clearly, it becomes almost uncomfortable how predictable you are. Why does something you regret still feel so easy to do? The answer starts with a chemical that has been misunderstood for decades: dopamine. Most people think dopamine is the pleasure molecule, but that is not true. Wolfram Schultz's research at the University of Cambridge showed something more precise. Dopamine is about prediction, not pleasure. It fires most strongly when your brain expects a reward, not when it receives one. That changes everything. Because your brain doesn't chase what makes you happy, it chases what it thinks will reward it with the least resistance. And bad habits are experts at that illusion. They promise something fast, simple, and reliable. No effort, no uncertainty, no waiting. So the brain learns quickly. This is safe. This is easy. This works. And you start repeating it without thinking. But why does it feel so hard to stop even when you know it is hurting you? Because repetition builds pathways. Neuroscientist Anne Graybiel at MIT studied habit formation in the basal ganglia. She found that repeated behaviors get compressed into automatic routines. The brain literally stops thinking about them step by step. It stores them as shortcuts. That means the habit is no longer a decision, it is a script. And scripts are faster than thought. So, when you try to stop a bad habit, you're not just resisting desire, you're trying to interrupt an automated system that is already running in the background. And your brain resists interruption, not because it is stubborn, but because efficiency is its highest priority. And efficiency feels like comfort. But there is another layer underneath this, something more subtle, something you don't notice until it's already controlling you. Your brain does not only chase reward, it also avoids discomfort at all costs. Behavioral studies by B.F. Skinner showed that organisms repeat behaviors that reduce discomfort even more consistently than those that increase pleasure. That means avoidance is often stronger than desire. So, when you're bored, stressed, uncertain, or tired, your brain does not ask what is best for you long term. It asks what removes discomfort immediately. And your bad habits answer instantly. Scroll, eat, delay, escape, repeat. It feels like relief, but it is not relief. It is temporary interruption of discomfort, which your brain misinterprets as success. So why does stopping feel almost painful? Because your brain has built expectations. Every habit becomes a predicted reward loop. When you interrupt it, you create a prediction error. Neuroscientists like Peter Diane have shown that prediction errors feel uncomfortable because the brain is constantly trying to minimize surprise. So when the habit doesn't happen, your brain doesn't feel neutral, it feels wrong. Something is missing, something is unresolved. And that feeling pushes you back into the habit just to restore the expected pattern. But there is something even more interesting happening beneath all of this. Your identity starts forming around repetition. Every time you act, your brain strengthens the connection between you and the behavior you repeat. Over time, you don't just say, "I do this habit," you start saying, "I am the kind of person who does this habit." And once that identity forms, breaking the habit feels like breaking yourself. So you return to it not only for reward, but for consistency, for identity stability, for psychological continuity. But if all of this is automatic, does that mean you're trapped? No, it means you're programmable, and that is where awareness changes everything. Because once you see the mechanism, you stop confusing urge with truth. You start noticing the pause between trigger and action. And in that pause, something new becomes possible. Neuroscientist Stanislaus Dehaene describes consciousness as a global workspace, a moment where different brain signals compete for control. Habits dominate when attention is low, but when attention is present, competition opens. That means you are not your habit. You are the moment before it happens. And in that moment, everything is still negotiable. But there is a reason most people never stay in that moment long enough, because awareness creates friction, and friction feels uncomfortable. So the brain tries to escape back into automation. This is why change feels like struggle even when the logic is clear. You're not fighting ignorance, you're fighting efficiency. So, what actually breaks the loop? Not force, not punishment, not guilt, but interruption of prediction. When you slightly change the pattern, you disrupt the reward script. Even something small forces the brain to rebuild expectation, and every time expectation breaks, the habit loses strength. This is why tiny changes matter more than big decisions, because the brain does not respond to intention, it responds to repetition and prediction. So, the goal is not to destroy the habit. The goal is to make it unfamiliar. And slowly, something shifts. The behavior that once felt automatic starts to feel optional. The urge still appears, but it loses its certainty. And when certainty weakens, control returns. But the most important realization is this: your brain was never your enemy. It was always trying to optimize survival in a world that no longer exists. A world where immediate reward meant safety and energy conservation meant survival. Now, that same system is running in a different environment, one filled with infinite stimulation and invisible traps. And your bad habits are not personal failures. They are outdated survival strategies still running on modern inputs. So, when you fall back into them, it's not because you're weak, it's because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. But you are not limited to design. You are the awareness that notices the design. And the moment you see it clearly, the habit is no longer invisible. It becomes something you can interrupt, something you can reshape, something you can outgrow. You try to stop a habit, and somehow your brain pulls you right back into it. But now you see the system behind the pull, and nothing about it feels automatic anymore.